Hello everyone. Today we will discuss chapter 21, Spread of Civilization in Eastern India. Signs of Civilization. A region is considered to be civilized if its people know the art of writing, have a system of collecting taxes and maintaining order, and possess social classes and specialists for performing priestly, administrative, and producing functions. All above all, a civilized society should be able to produce enough to support not only the actual producers consisting of artisans and peasants, but also consumers who are not engaged in production. All these elements make for civilization, but they appear in a large part of the eastern India on a recognizable scale very late. Practically no written records are found in the greater portions of the eastern Madhya Pradesh and the adjoining areas of Orissa, of West Bengal, of Bangladesh, and of Assam till the middle of 4th century AD. The period from the 4th to the 7th century is remarkable for the diffusion of an advanced rural economy, formation of state systems, and delineation of social classes in eastern Madhya Pradesh, Orissa, Eastern Bengal, and Southeast Bengal and Assam. This is indicated by the distribution of a good number of inscriptions in these areas in Gupta times. Many inscriptions dated in the Gupta era are found in these areas. They are generally in the form of land grants made by feudatory princes and others for religious purposes to Buddhists and Brahmanas, and also to Vaishnavite temples and Buddhist monasteries. These beneficiaries played an important role in spreading and strengthening elements of advanced culture. The process can be understood by attempting a region-wise survey. Orissa and eastern and southern Madhya Pradesh, Kalinga or the coastal Orissa, south of the Mahanadi, leapt into the importance under Ashoka, but a strong state was founded in that area only in the first century BC. Its ruler Kharavela advanced as far as Magadha. In the first and second centuries AD, the ports of Orissa carried on brisk trade in pearls, ivory, and Muslin. Excavations at Shishupal Gar, the site of Kalinga Nagari, which was the capital of Kharavela, at a distance of 60 km from Bhubaneswar, have yielded several Roman objects indicating trade contacts with the Roman Empire. But the greater part of Orissa, particularly northern Orissa, neither experienced state formation nor witnessed much commercial activity. In the 4th century, Kosala and Mahakandara figure in the list of conquests made by Samudragupta. They covered parts of northern and western Orissa. From the second half of the 4th century to the 6th century, several states were formed in Orissa, and at least five of them can be clearly identified. The most important of them is the state of Marathas, who are also called Pitribhaktas. At the peak of their power, they dominated the area between the Mahanadi and Krishna. Their contemporaries and neighbors were the Vasishtas, the Nalas, and the Manas. The Vasishtas ruled on the borders of Andhra and in the South Kalinga, the Nalas in the forest area of Mahakandara, and Manas in the coastal area in the north beyond the Mahanadi. Each state developed its system of taxation, administration, and military organization. The Nalas and probably the Manas also evolved their system of coinage. Each kingdom favored the Brahmanas with land grants and even invited them from outside. And most kings performed Vedic sacrifices not only for spiritual merit but also for power, prestige, and legitimacy. In this period, elements of advanced culture were not confined to the coastal belt known as Kalinga but appeared in the other parts of Orissa. The find of the Nala good coins in the tribal Bastar area in Madhya Pradesh is significant. It presupposes an economic system in which gold money was used in large transactions and served as medium of payment to high functionaries. Similarly, the Manas seem to have issued copper coins, which implies the use of metallic money even by artisans and peasants. The various states added to their income by forming new fiscal units in rural areas. The Marathas created a district called Mahendra Boga in the area of the Mahendra Mountains. They also ruled over a district called Danda Dandaya Dandaya Vugu Boga. Dandaya Vagu Boga, which is apparently supplied ivory and rice gruel to its administrators and had thus been created in a backward area. The Marathas made endowments called agraharas, which consisted of land and income from villages and were meant for supporting religious and educational activities of the Brahmanas. Some agraharas had to pay taxes, although elsewhere in the country they were tax-free. The induction of Brahmanas through land grants in tribal forest and red soils areas brought new lands under cultivation and introduced better methods of agriculture based on improved knowledge of weather conditions. Formerly, the year was divided into 3 units, each consisting of 4 months, and time was reckoned on the basis of 3 seasons. Under the Marathas, in the middle of the 5th century, began the practice of dividing the year into 12 lunar months. This implied a detailed idea of weather conditions, which was useful for agricultural operations. In the coastal Orissa, writing was certainly known from the 3rd century BC, and inscriptions up to the middle of the 4th century AD appeared in Prakrit, but from about AD 350, Sanskrit began to be used. What is more significant, charters in this language appear outside the coastal belt beyond the Mahanadi in the north. Thus, the art of writing and Sanskrit language spread over a good portion of Orissa, and some of the finest Sanskrit verses are found in the epigraphs of the period. Sanskrit served as a vehicle of not only Brahmanical religion and culture but also of property laws and social regulations in new areas. Verses from Puranas and Dharmashastras are quoted in Sanskrit charters, and kings claim to be the preservers of the Varna system. The affiliation of the people to the culture of the Gangetic Basin is emphasized. A dip in the Ganga at Prayag, at the confluence of the Ganga and the Yamuna, is considered holy, and the victorious kings visit Prayag. Bengal. As regards Bengal, portions of the North Bengal, now in the Bogra district, give evidence of the prevalence of writing in the time of Ashoka. An inscription indicates several settlements maintaining a storehouse filled with coins and food grains for the upkeep of Buddhist monks. Clearly, the local peasants were in a position to spare a part of their produce for paying taxes and making gifts. Further, people of this area knew Prakrit and professed Buddhism. Similarly, an inscription found in the coastal district of Noakhali in southeast Bengal shows that people knew Prakrit and Brahmi script in that area in the 2nd century BC. But for the greater part of the Bengal, we do not hear anything till we come to the 4th century AD. In about the middle of the 4th century, a king with the title of Maharaja ruled in the Pokarna on the Damodara in Bangura district. He knew Sanskrit and was a devotee of Vishnu, to whom he possibly granted a village. The area lying between the Ganga and the Brahmaputra, now covering Bangladesh, emerged as a settled and fairly Sanskrit educated area in the 5th and 6th centuries. The Gupta governors seem to have become so independent after about AD 550 and occupied North Bengal. A portion may have been seized by the rulers of Kamarupa. Local vassal princes called Samanta Maharajas had created their own administrative apparatus and built their military organization, consisting of horses, elephants, and foot soldiers and boats, to fight their rivals and collect taxes from the local peasantry. By AD 600, the area came to be known as Gouda, with its independent state ruled by Shashanka, the adversary of Harsha. For a century from AD 432 to 433, we notice a series of land sale documents recorded on copper plates in Pundra Vardhana Bhukti, which covered almost the whole of North Bengal, now mostly in Bangladesh. Most land grants indicate That land was purchased with gold coins called dinara. Gold coins were called dinara. But once land was given for religious purposes, the Donis did not have to pay any tax. The land transactions show the involvement of leading scribes, merchants, artisans, landed classes, etc., in local administration, which was manned by the governors appointed by the Gupta emperors. The land sale documents not only indicate the existence of different social groups and local functionaries, but also shed valuable light on the expansion of agriculture. Mostly land purchased for religious endowments is desired as follow: uncultivated and therefore untaxed. Without doubt, the effect of the grants was to bring plots of land within the purview of cultivation and settlement. The deltaic portion of Bengal, formed by the Brahmaputra and called Samatada, was made to acknowledge the authority of Samudragupta. It covered It covered southeast Bengal. A portion of this territory may have been populated and important enough to attract the attention of the Gupta conqueror, but possibly it was not ruled by Brahmanized princes, and consequently it neither used Sanskrit nor adopted the Varna system, as was the case in North Bengal. From about AD 525, the area came to have a fairly organized state covering Samatada and a portion of Wanga, which lay on the western boundary of Samatada. It issued a good number of gold coins in the second half of the 6th century. In addition to this state, in the 7th century, we come across the state of Khadkas, literally swordsman, in the Dhaka area. We also notice the kingdom of Brahmana feudatory called Loganatha and that of the Rathas, both in Komilla area. All these princes of Southeast and Central Bengal issued land grants in the 6th and 7th centuries. Like the Orisen kings, they also created agraharas. The land charters show cultivation of Sanskrit, leading to the use of some sophisticated meters in the second half of the 7th century. At the same time, they attested the expansion of cultivation and rural settlements. A fiscal and administrative unit called Danda Bhukti was formed in the border areas lying between Bengal and Orissa. Danda means punishment and Bhukti means enjoyment. Apparently, the unit was created for taming and punishing the tribal inhabitants of that region. It may have promoted Sanskrit and other elements of culture in tribal areas. This was also true of Vardhamana Bhukti, Burdwan, of which we hear in the 7th century. In southeast Bengal, in the Faridpur area, 5 plots of land granted to a Buddhist monastery were waste and waterlogged, paying no tax to the state. Similarly, 200 Brahmanas were given a large area in Komila district within a forest region full of deer, boars, buffaloes, tigers, serpents, etc. All such instances are sufficient proof of the progress of colonization and civilization in new areas. The 2 centuries from about the middle of the fifth appears to be very momentous in the history of Bengal. They saw the formation of about a half dozen states, some large and others small, some independent and others feudatory, but each had its victory or military camp where it maintained its infantry, cavalry, elephants, and boats. Each had its fiscal and administrative districts with its machinery for tax collection and maintenance of order. Each practiced expansion through war and land grants or to Buddhist and Brahmanas. The number of endowment had increased so much that ultimately an officer called Agraharika had to be appointed to look after them. Land grants led to rural expansion and created new rights in land. Generally, land was under the possession of individual families, but its sale and purchase was subject to the overall control of the local communities dominated by leading artisans, merchants, landowners, and scribes. They helped the local agents by the or like local agents of the king. But ordinary cultivators were also consulted about the sale of land in the village. It seems that originally only the tribe or the community could grant land because they possessed it. Therefore, even when individuals came to possess their own lands and made gifts for religious purposes, the community continued to have a say in the matter. Probably at an earlier stage, the community donated land to the priests for religious services and paid taxes to the princes for military and political services. Later, the king received from the community a good part of the land and arrogated to himself much more, which enabled him to make land grants. The king was entitled to tax and also possessed rights over waste and fallow land. The administrative functionaries of each state knew Sanskrit, which was the official language. They were also familiar with the teachings of the Puranas and the Dharmashastras. The period, therefore, is very significant because of the onward march of the civilization in this area. Assam, Kamaruba, identical with the Brahmaputra basin running from the east to west, shot into prominence in the 7th century. Excavations, however, show settlements in the Ambari near Gauhati from the 4th century of the Christian era. In the same century, Samudragupta received tributes from Davaga and Kamaruba. Davaga possibly accounted for a portion of Naugong district, and Kamaruba covered the Brahmaputra basin. The rulers who submitted to Samudragupta may have been chiefs living on the tributes collected from the tribal peasantry. The Ambari excavations show that settlements were fairly developed in the 6th and 7th centuries. This is supported by inscriptions. By the beginning of the 6th century, the use of Sanskrit and the art of writing are clearly in evidence. The Kamaruba kings adopted the title Varman, which obtained not only in northern, central, and western India, but also in Bengal, Orissa, Andhra, Karnataka, and Tamil Nadu. They strengthened their position through land grants to the Brahmanas. In the 7th century, Bhaskara emerged as the head of a state which controlled a good deal of the Brahmaputra basin and some areas beyond it. Buddhism also acquired a foothold, and the Chinese traveler Huan visited this state. The formative phase. Although different parts of eastern India acquired prominence at different times, the formative phase ranged from the 4th to 7th century. In this period, writing, Sanskrit learning, Vedic rituals, Brahminical social classes, and state systems spread and developed in eastern Madhya Pradesh, in north Orissa, in western Bengal, in West Bengal, in a good part of Bangladesh, and in Assam. Cultural contacts with the Gupta Empire stimulated the spread of civilization in eastern zone. North Bengal and northwest Orissa came under the Gupta rule. In other areas of these regions, the Gupta association can be inferred from the use of Gupta era in inscriptions. In Bengal, new states were formed by feudatories who maintained a good number of elephants, horses, boats, etc. in their military camps. Obviously, they collected regular taxes from the rural communities to maintain professional armies. For the first time in the 5th and 6th centuries, we clearly notice a large-scale writing, use of Sanskrit, formation of Varna society, and progress of Buddhism and Brahmanism in the form of Shaivism and Vaishnavism in these areas. We find only the remnants of communal authority over land, but we can see the existence of private property in land and the use of gold coins with which it could be purchased. All this presupposes an advanced food producing economy. Apparently, it was based on iron plowshare agriculture, wet paddy cultivation, and knowledge of various crafts. Kalidasa refers to the transplantation of paddy seedlings in Vanga, but we do not know whether the practice was indigenous or came from Magadha. North Bengal produced good quality of sugarcane. All this made for sufficient agricultural production, which was able to sustain both people and government, and could foster widespread rural settlements in such areas as were either sparsely inhabited or not at all inhabited. A connected narrative of the princes and dynasties and their feudatories, all revolving round a central power, cannot be prepared, but There is no doubt about the cultural evolution and conquest of civilization in the outlying provinces in the eastern zone. The decline and fall of Gupta Empire therefore coincided with considerable progress in the outlying regions. Many obscure areas which were possibly ruled by tribal chiefs and were thinly settled came into historical limelight. This applied to the red soil areas of West Bengal, North Orissa, and the adjoining areas of Madhya Pradesh, which formed part of the Chota Nagpur plateau and were difficult to cultivate and settle. It applied more to the jungle areas with alluvial soil and heavy rainfall in Bangladesh and to the Brahmaputra basin. So we have completed chapter 21. In the next video, we will discuss chapter 22, Harsha and his times. So thank you for listening me. We'll see you next class. Thank you very much.